Can we come to order, please? Will the clerk call the roll?
Barnes,
Here.
Bauer,
Here.
Cho, Dial, Farron, Hannon, Chaplin.
Here.
Quorum is present.
Next item on the agenda is to approve the agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So move.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded that the agenda be approved. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, please say no. Okay. The motion carries. Audience participation. If there are any comments from the public, please approach the podium and state your name and address. This is an opportunity to make a statement to the Board of Trustees as a whole. We do not answer questions. Please limit your comments to 5 minutes or less. The countdown clock will display your remaining time. Welcome.
Thank you. It's a privilege to address all of you, and at the outset, I'd like to just say I'm a very strong supporter of the MTD and feel our community is blessed to have such a great mass transportation system. I've used to take it myself more in the past more frequently when I worked here at the City Council, in the City Building in the Municipal Law Office. I'm retired from there now. I used to take the Brown Line to my neighborhood in Devonshire, and really found taking the bus very pleasurable experience, in part because of not having the distraction of driving and other distractions, and was kind of alarmed when I first heard the audio advertisements that go on the bus, and just wanted to share my observation about that. I find those really obnoxious. They're very loud, and I find it a little hard to reconcile that with the, I think, very sound public policy and rule on the bus that you can't play music on the bus. I wonder how you reconcile that with concerns about distraction for the driver as well. I understand that there's a rule not to talk to the driver. And just want to respectfully suggest that you may want to reconsider using audio advertisements on the bus. I appreciate that it's a source of revenue, and I'm all for encouraging the MTD to always explore creative ways to bring more revenue to this very valuable resource. But I suspect I'm not the only person that finds the audio ads very obnoxious and distracting and disruptive as far as the kind of serenity that I've grown to enjoy when I ride the bus instead of taking the car. I'm one of those folks who doesn't have to take the bus, I'm happy to say, but from time to time choose to take the bus because I find it to be environmentally sound and also kind of a nice respite from dealing with the distraction of driving in traffic. And so just wanted to share those comments to you and ask the board that perhaps you want to reconsider whether that's a necessary source of revenue given that negative that I find. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Could we have your name, please?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I'm Joseph Hooker. I live at 1514 Country Lake Drive in Champaign. Okay. And I'm retired as an assistant city attorney. I worked here for about 20 years, and that's when I was taking the bus more frequently.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any others who wish to address the board? Okay. Moving on, approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting of June 26, 2019. A motion to approve?
I move.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of the board meeting of June 26, 2019 as distributed. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. The motion carries. Do we have any communications, Carl, board members? Nobody? Okay, then let's go on to the managing director's report.
Thank you. This report is for June, which is the last month of the fiscal year. Ridership was down 5% from last June, which is about 21,478 rides. So the majority of that was made up from the fact that there was one fewer weekday in the month than the previous June. So that results in about a difference of 13,000 of those 21,000 rides. So we were pretty close there. And then for the year end, the closeout of the fiscal year, we did end up with a ridership increase of 0.9%. So that was good to see that. It's been a couple of years since we've seen, although it's a small one, but see an increase in ridership. Moving on to revenue, the revenue for June was 16.5% below June of 2018, and the year-to-date operating revenue was 2.7% below FY 2018. The operating expenses were 16.8% below June, and the operating expenses were 1.3% above fiscal year 2018. A note about both of those, because those are seemingly large statistics percentage-wise, and I just would like to remind you, we have this appear this way every June because the June that we're comparing to last year is post-audited adjustments, and the June we're showing you this year, we don't have the audit adjustments made yet. So it's not a very good month to look at the comparison because one has been adjusted and one has not. So that makes up the majority of those differences. The year-to-date operating revenue is $484,000 above budget, and the operating expenses are $3.3 million under budget. And then just one note about the hydrogen production, storage, and fueling station, as I have in the board packet, a note that we have opened up the proposals. We received 4. And last week, we had presentations from all 4 proposers. And so now we are in the process of, we've evaluated the proposals, and now we've gotten the presentations from the proposers. And so now we're wrapping up those evaluations, and we'll hopefully be bringing the recommendation for award to you shortly. I don't know. Well, I think it will be at the August board meeting. We should be ready to do that for the August board meeting. With that, I would like to quickly introduce our new customer service director. As a reminder, Amy Snyder was our previous customer service director, and she has been promoted to chief of staff. That left an opening with the customer service director position, and we recently have promoted Drew Bargeman, who was our special services manager, into the customer service director role. So I'd like to, if we can get the camera thrown over to Drew, give him just an opportunity to give a quick introduction of himself to you.
Thank you. As Carl mentioned, I previously served as the special services manager. I was in that role for 5 years, where I closely worked with our paratransit and the rural transit programs, but also was pretty heavily involved with the MTD 2071 initiative. And Carl and I have been talking, in the transition here, about, the importance of that customer service plays with the organization and how we're doing work to elevate that. And so I'm really excited to kind of build off the work that Amy's already achieved.
Thank you, Drew. With that, I have one final thing to do, but before I do that, I will take any questions that you may have on the report through page 43.
Carl, we cut the bus service back on the campus in the summer, right?
That's correct. We
How much do we cut it?
it's roughly, but pretty close to being about a third of the services cut for break times. So that would include the fall break, the winter break, the spring break, and then the summer break.
So two-thirds, you're to go down to two-thirds,
Yes.
roughly. Yeah, thank you.
I was going to ask about a replacement for Drew. Are you working on that?
Yes.
I mean, he runs the C-carts. We have,
Yeah, so one domino at a time, until we knew that he would be the customer service director, we didn't know that we needed to fill the special services manager. So that's just been a week or so, maybe 2 weeks, that has occurred. So Corbin, the chief operating officer, and Amy and Chuck Wilson, the operations director, and Drew are sort of putting their heads together to determine the path for replacing the special services manager. Of course, Drew hasn't gone anywhere, so he's here to help us through that period of time and continue to function to some degree in that role. And he has some partner coworkers in the operations department and the planning department that also are helping him. And so, you know, the work is getting done, and yes, we're working on the replacement plan.
are there any other questions from the board for Carl? Dick?
Can you give us, excuse me, an update on MCOR, how its progress is going this summer, and are we on we're going to get things done when we thought we would?
Yeah, MCOR is moving along very, very well. It's actually the rain that we had earlier on in the season created some delays in what on the work that could be completed. But on the whole, they're pretty close to being on schedule and really kind of motoring ahead. Now, this particular phase of MCOR that is being worked on right now, which is primarily Wright Street and then some of Armory, they're not going to be done with Wright Street before students come back. And so that will continue into the fall, and then they'll go on to a winter construction stoppage and then start up again in the spring. So Wright Street will continue to have a variety of closures and work being done on it, but they are progressing very, very well on the one lane that they've been working on. That should be done this fall, and then they'll begin working on the southbound lane.
So what's the final target for the entire project?
For the entire project, well, there's still the whole portion of Green Street that hasn't even been begun yet. Excuse me, that goes from campus all the way down to Race Street in Urbana. And so when that is done, that's the final piece. That should be 2022 when that's completed.
Any more questions? Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I know Carl has something he wants to do.
Yes. So I'm gonna move up front for just a moment, and if Trustee Jim Farron could come with me, please.
You got a bus stop.
So I'm going to be talking to our large audience here. I'm sorry to turn my back to the Board of Trustees. Jim has recently resigned as a trustee from the board. He and his family are moving out of state to be closer to their children, and so we can all always support that. That's a great thing for parents and grandparents to do. But I just wanted to, Jim, I wanted to give you a bus stop sign, because you can't get bus stop signs from anybody but a bus company. And this is just for us to show our appreciation to you for the last 2.5 years that you have been a trustee. We appreciate your time, and I would add to that just a personal note that you've been a good friend, and you have been challenging at times, but those challenges have resulted, I believe, in a better district and made me a better managing director, so I appreciate that. Thank you. And with that, Margaret, I know you wanted to say something too?
Yes, I want to say on behalf of the board, I want to thank Jim for his time and effort on behalf of the MTD, his continuing desire to learn about MTD operations and his careful scrutiny of his expenditures are evidence of his concern for quality mass transit. We wish him all the best in his new home. Thank you.
I want to say something, Carl.
Okay.
Yeah. Jim, when you get to North Carolina, Chapel Hill, I believe the first thing you're going to do is look around for a place to start a subdivision. And you'll pick the highest one because, of course, the water is rising in that part of the country. And I think it'll probably be called eventually by the locals Fahrenheit's. Because you can't talk about global warming in North Carolina, but this may be a way to do it after all. Right. I'll miss you.
Bruce, yeah, I really appreciate really the interaction of the opportunity to get to know people and to finally get involved with mass transit. And life is a series of priorities, and but one of my regrets is not finishing out my term. I enjoyed and occasionally with Carl and I sparring a little bit, but hopefully everybody was a better person after the event. Thank you.
Sorry. We have one action item, which is the semi-annual review of closed session minutes. Text begins on page 44. Our attorney has listed minutes that should be kept and minutes that should remain, these are closed session minutes, that should be kept, those that should remain confidential, and he also has listed electronic recordings that could be destroyed. He's also suggested the motion that we can use to move forward on this. So is there some discussion of this, or let's just go right to the motion? I don't know there's much controversy. We've had these things come up before us before.
Our rules.
We need a motion.
Beth? No? You don't know what to do here? We've done this before.
Oh, well, I think what we could do is, yeah, I think just to read the one that that our lawyer has suggested.
Yeah. Madam Chairman, I suggest this motion. The Board of Trustees hereby determines, A, that the minutes or portions thereof of the closed session meeting of the board listed on attachment 1, marked release, no longer require confidential treatment and are ordered released. B, that the need for confidentiality still exists as to the minutes or portion thereof of the closed session meetings of the board listed on attachment 2, marked remain confidential. And C, that the verbatim recordings of the following listed closed session minutes, attachment 3, all of which are not less than 18 months old, and the written minutes of which have been approved are authorized to be destroyed.
Second? Is there a second?
Second?
Thank you, Dave. Any discussion? Okay, this is a roll call vote.
Barnes. Yes. Bauer.
Yes.
Cho. Farron. Yes. Hannon.
Yes.
Chaplin.
Yes. Okay. Now, as the agenda shows, our next meeting is August 28th at 3 o'clock in the City Council chambers. We would now want to adjourn to a closed session to consider the employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of a public official, and to consider litigation which is probable or imminent against AMTD, followed by adjournment. We have to have a motion. We have to have a motion, and then it's going to be a roll call.
So moved.
Okay, second?
Second.
Okay. Roll call it.
Barnes. Bauer.
Yes.
Cho. Farren. Hannon.
Yes.
Chaplin.
Yes. After we go into closed session, and the closed session is finished, we will adjourn afterwards. So let's go into closed session.